The endomembrane system, do you remember what I told you endo means? Endo is inside, so it's that membrane system inside the cell. And when we look at these inner membranes inside the cell, they're going to have a lot of jobs, okay? The primary job of these membranes is to connect, physically connect organelles inside the cell. So essentially an internal support structure. And aids in communication and transport between the organelles. Because the organelles have to work together. The organelles are working together to do a lot of things, including production, manufacturing, or synthesis of macromolecules, storage, nutrients, energy, whatever, and export of materials, particularly of macromolecules. So if these organelles are doing all of these things, they're going to have to communicate and transport things between themselves. The endomembrane system allows them to do that. So here are the 6 major parts of the endomembrane system. The nuclear envelope was that double plasma membrane layer around the nucleus that we talked about. The ER we've already looked at a little bit with the rough ER. We also have something known as the smooth ER. The smooth does not have ribosomes. It's going to be responsible for lipid production or fat production instead of proteins. Golgi is responsible for protein transport and packaging. Lysosomes, we said, were what? The garbage trucks. They're responsible for breaking down materials and recycling. Vacuoles are transport or storage. And then the plasma membrane, you already know, that's the phospholipid bilayer on the outside that surrounds the cell. So the difference between the smooth ER and the rough ER, you see here. So the rough ER has the ribosomes, the smooth ER does not. They are connected. They're connected primarily because the smooth ER is going to produce lipids and the rough ER is going to use lipids a lot. So the smooth ER is actually providing the lipids to replace the ones used by the rough ER and producing lipids for the rest of things going on inside the cell. The rough ER's responsibility is protein production. So if I tell you here that the rough ER makes proteins that are destined for secretions, what does it mean to secrete something? So you might think about oozing or releasing. All would work, okay? The rough ER is going to make proteins that are going to be packaged up in such a way that they will actually eventually leave the cell. So this secretory protein is a protein that is going to leave the cell. So we have a lot of cells whose job it is to make proteins that are going to be used throughout your body. So these are really important for us. You see the ribosome bound here, so we know that this is rough ER. The The polypeptide, what was that another name for? Protein, right? And glycoprotein means that it's a sugar plus a protein. And you see these green sugar chains that have been added on. And now this vesicle is going to be transporting the protein for us. Now, it's only going to transport it within the cell at the moment. It's going to take it to something known as the Golgi apparatus. This is part of the endomembrane system we were talking about. So the Golgi, I like to think about the Golgi like UPS or FedEx. Its job is to take those proteins from the rough ER and take them and modify them in some way before they're sent out of the cell to the rest of the body. So when they start picking up proteins from the rough ER, the Golgi picks them up and processes them in some sort of way and packages them so that they will then leave the cell. And you see, this is kind of a funny shaped organelle, right? This is the Golgi. But it's all membrane. Its job is to isolate these proteins, modify them as need be, and then package them again into the little vesicle, the plasma membrane bound vesicle, that will then eventually leave the cell. So this processing part of it all occurs because perhaps these proteins actually come in as a tertiary structure, and maybe they actually need to be a quaternary structure. We talked about quaternary structures of proteins before. So this is a place where you would build those.